And we are back in the room. I hope you all enjoyed that session. And I know we're coming here today, all of us have come to get something, a new connection, a new idea, a new something that will make you grow forward. And when I was speaking to our next speaker, Brendan van Staaden, in the coffee break, he was saying how fruitful it was for him to be back a year later, what he's received a year after being at the summit last year. So it is fruitful. I'm going to ask for our, can you close the doors as you walk in? Just before our next speaker, thank you. Okay, Brendan, I'm going to welcome you. They're going to start settling down. So Brendan's mission is to help clients digitize and automate their financial business processes and integrate their enterprise back office platforms with modern digital communications. So I love his topic. The topic name is the role of conversational AI and machine learning in countering fraud and money laundering in transactional banking. He's going to be really conversational. It's going to be fun. And we welcome to the stage Mr. Brendan van Staaden. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ursula. Hello, everybody. How's the summit happening? Is it good? Yeah? Can I have a show of hands from this audience to show me who doesn't understand ChatGPT, who doesn't understand AI, who doesn't understand generative AI, all of these things? Show of hands, who doesn't get it? Not one. So I'm not going to stand up here and tell you about AI. I'm not going to stand up and tell you about ChatGPT and all that good stuff. I'm going to let my presentation loop. You can get a copy of it afterwards. You'll get the gist of what I'm trying to talk about today. And that is the role of machine learning and conversational AI in mitigating fraud, right? You'll notice I use countering, mitigating, as opposed to preventing. Who here is successful at preventing fraud? No hands. Because it's going to happen, right? Fraud is going to happen. People are going to be out there, fraudsters, money launderers, they're all going to be out there doing their thing. We cannot prevent that. No software can prevent that. What we can do is apply measures to mitigate that. Now, you've all heard about these fancy AI tool sets, etc. I specialize in a very niche and specific set of conversational business applications, and that is exactly the conversational AI component of all these fancy tool sets that you hear about. The differentiator with a conversational business model versus a vanilla AI is that I rely on far deeper, far more informed data sets to inform my decisions. That allows my customers, my internal, external customers, to converse with me, my backends, with the core banking systems, insurance systems, you name it, okay? The integration into these systems is key because there aren't any conversational or other AI models that are banking systems. We have to rely on bringing information from core sets to interpret, to transform, and to inform. So I want to focus on something very particular here. I've walked through all of this wonderful event. I've passed a lot of the stands. Fantastic. I'm sure you'll all agree that virtually everybody here has done a great job in presenting technologies, presenting solutions, and all kinds of things. And it's all way out there tech. It's the stuff we spoke about last year on steroids, right? Because it's just progressed enormously. So how does this all tie into fraud and anti-money laundering? The key component that I haven't seen much of is the personalization aspect of these technologies. So I want to touch very specifically on that. So the conversational AI model, the machine learning models will look at transactions inside of the core business, whether it's a bank or an insurance company, whatever, wherever there is somebody coming in to transact. We're going to look at those transactions real time as they happen, 24/7, 365. And what we're going to do is we're going to personalize this by building and understanding the persona, the individual coming into the bank. Because the best way for me to counter fraud and to counter money laundering behavior is to know who's coming into the organization and to identify whether they're coming in with spurious or malicious intent or whether they're coming in to just do a normal transaction. So how do I do that? I look at huge data sets in the back end. You've heard about the large language models, and you've heard about how the AI will access these things, and they'll rely on the web to inform the requisite data responses. We all know I can go in and talk to ChatGPT, and it'll look through the massive repository of data sources and give me a response that it thinks works. And I will then have to make do with that, analyze it, make sense of it, check it. And that's the piece that is mind-numbing. If I have to go and check every single thing that gets done, it's going to be virtually impossible to get to the root of the stuff I'm looking for in my business. So when I've identified the personas, I've built a model for Clive, who happens to be our fin crime specialist at MoData. So Clive shares with me all the good things about what the fraudsters do, what the money launderers do, how they behave, and what do we look out for. There's a thing that we call false positives, which are the bane of anti-fraud, the risk of freaking customers out when they're actually doing a transaction and we're thinking it's fraud. So how do we eliminate these things? How do we reduce them? When I build my models based on the enterprise data inside of the business, the bank's data, the insurance company's data, that data forms similarly to what the ChatGPT-4 Omni, GPT-4 Enterprise, all of these things, it forms the similar type of enterprise data layer that the web would be external. So we have to do that very carefully because that is proprietary data, it's proprietary customer information. There are compliance issues that could come to the fore, there's ethical issues, all sorts of things, and that's why we have to keep it in that closed environment for security purposes. And I can go on for days about security and how we apply encryption and all that kind of stuff. That's for another day. But the reality is that we manage to tie that data down, and any data in transit is secured, and data that rests in the customer instance in the cloud or on-premise, wherever that might be, is carefully monitored and locked down per the ECM rules inside of the business. So I've got all of this data. I now go in and I identify Clive when he calls in or he transacts. Every time he transacts, I watch what he does, I being the AI. I watch what he does and I store and I learn. The machine learning component learns from that behavior. The machines aren't just learning Clive's behavior, they're learning all the subscribers, the customers, the users. They're learning the behaviors as they happen. Now, Clive has a very specific Saturday morning routine. He goes to the chemist, he buys what he has to do. He goes to Checkers, he buys what he has to go to Woolies, buys what he has to do. On average, draws about 500 Rand. So he's out there on his Saturday doing his thing. All of a sudden, the AI, the machine learning models that are monitoring the transactions, that are looking continuously at what's going on, and this is what we do. So we're actually running these things now, using the compute that's available to us and monitoring and measuring as we go. I watch Clive, and all of a sudden I see there's a transaction, a withdrawal in Bronkhorstspruit for 3 grand. Now I know that can't be Clive. The reality is I pick it up. Now, our normal call center agents, fraud agents, We'll pick that stuff up at a later date, and then we'll mitigate after the fact, and it might be too late. We're going to maybe phone Clive, and Clive's in the middle of something. He's not going, that's fraud line again, I'm not answering that, or I don't even recognize this number, I'm not answering that. And it gets left, and the malicious attack happens, and we've got all kinds of things that sit behind that, which I'm not going to go into, but you all understand it. You live in that world. So the transaction happens real time. The AI identifies the anomaly straight away. It's an outlier, picks it up, and here's where the personalization piece comes into it. I spoke about that, personalization. Clive, as a customer of my organization, has his own personal virtual assistant, intelligent virtual assistant. That is allocated to him. That has a number. We'll call it Scooby. I love Scooby. So Scooby has a number. Clive has a number. They've saved one another's numbers. Clive knows that when Scooby messages him or calls him, he knows I've got to pay attention because I know who Scooby is. Scooby's the equivalent of my banker. My private banker, my bank manager, my banking assistant, whatever we call them these days. Scooby phones Clive and says, problem. Or he messages Clive, says, problem, I've just picked up a $3,000 transaction. Are you doing it? Clive says, not at all. Stop the transaction. I'm mitigating a malicious attack. I watch Clive and many others. I can watch businesses. I can watch behaviors all the time. And I can converse based on those behaviors. And this is where conversational AI knocks the socks off the vanilla AI stuff that we're used to, okay? We go in and look at these transactions all the time, and if there is a behavioral attribute that is taking place, someone is trying to transact on an account, or someone has put a large sum of money into an account, money has gone in and gone out. There are regular transactions for similar amounts happening day and night. The system is going to look at this and say, hang on, there's something going on here. Is there money being laundered? Am I looking at what reference points I set up in the bank? Because remember, we're going to design this thing and build it according to specification. Those specifications are going to inform the types of decisions and the types of suggestions that my virtual environment is going to give us and that we're going to then make available to the customer. So everyone is going to have a different set of I don't want to use the term rules, different set of attributes in their persona. So their Scooby will know how they transact. Their Scooby will know who's in their circle. Their Scooby will know everything about what they're doing, and in that space, the machine learning can then start to expand on the persona. The machine learning can then come back to Clive and say, listen, we need to via the CAI, we need to make some changes in the way you do business, okay, or the way you bank, or where you bank, or how, whatever. Because I'm picking up that you're trying to draw money in a dangerous area. I'm picking up that you're sharing information that could potentially lead to fraudulent activity on your account. I'm watching your electronic transactions, and they're not secure enough. And that's how I'm going to then come in and help Clive build a different personality out there, build a different digital footprint, build a different digital identity that's going to be more specifically tailored to the way he banks and more specifically in line with what the bank has as its own fraud defense, money laundering defense mechanisms. So the transaction that happens with Clive, I need to know and understand, and I think the speaker before me was telling you about authentication, verification, all those kinds of things. That is becoming pretty much the norm in the game today. So I need to know if Clive is coming in. I need to know pretty much everything about him. Either I rely on other tools inside of the current bank, or I rely on tools via the external data information sources such as the Department of Home Affairs, SARS, SAPS, the credit bureaus, you name it, right? That's the information I'm going to use real time to verify. And if I need to do a verification at any point, let's say for onboarding, and we're doing a project right now, I can onboard you, and again, we can do it under 10 minutes. We onboard you, you're verified, you're authenticated, you're in the system, you can now transact. Great. So the AI has helped with all of those kinds of things. It's prevented a fraudulent activity because we have nailed down that it is him coming into the system. But now he's in the system. So what happens after that? It's all good and well that I've brought him in seamlessly. What happens in there? I have to now go and revisit the way my organization has traditionally done all this work. And that's why if I'm going to build a proper anti-fraud, anti-money laundering regime, I have to do the homework first. I can't rely on traditional methods. I can't rely on the old thinking around building these structures, because a lot of that legacy stuff is far too easy today to penetrate, to make use of, and to abuse. So we believe that again, going back to people, we have to immerse ourselves in the business and get a deeper understanding of what the customer is trying to do. What are you trying to deliver as an outcome? Okay, what are the rules inside your organization? And then we'll work out how we change those to meet the new requirement and how we apply them. So now that we've onboarded you, we'll set a set of rules, set a set of parameters for you to operate in, and we'll know what that cocoon looks like. We'll keep that thing updated. We have to know very carefully whether the transactions are biased. We need to know whether they're unfair. We need to know that they're ethical. So we can't rely on the machines to continuously do this work and never pay attention to them. Again, coming back to people. I can't put these robots in my system and let them run rogue, because they might learn bad habits. And if they learn those bad habits, they don't necessarily unlearn them. And that could expose a lot of stuff at the back end that would affect the customer's personal data, your POP here, GDPR, all of those kinds of compliance regimes. If I don't make sure that the system I'm running is current, and it's not hallucinating, it's not building something based on information. I don't know if you know this, but if you ask ChatGPT a stupid question, and you keep it in your repository, that stupid question and a stupid answer technically can get saved. It can inform the robot, the GPT, transformer. It can save that daft information, and the AI will use it as a potential solution. So now, that's why they urge us. When you do a prompt, please don't necessarily save it to the profile or store it in the repository that it uses to train on. Because all the time we're doing these GPT transactions, we're doing Gemini, we're doing Claude, we're doing Perplexity, all these kinds of things. We're building presentations with Gamma, and we're putting all sorts of wonderful things in there, okay? And we're just accepting it, fine, let's go. All of that information that goes in there is information that trains those robots. So if I don't keep my information current, and I don't keep my robots on their toes, the fraudsters, the money launderers are going to come in with all kinds of newfangled ideas. They will know what information to throw at you, to throw at your robots. They will know. This whole world of deep fake is a very interesting topic. And you're going to tell me, Ursula, when I'm finished talking, right? Am I done? 3 minutes. I can go on for days. Where was I? Pop quiz. Deep fake. Right. So when we train, we've got to teach. We've got to teach these devices to look for certain anomalies. Just like we train them on paper. You know, when you get a document scanned and sent to you, how do I know that's an income document? I'll ask you for your salary slip. And you're going to go quickly, you go to Adobe PDF and you doctor this thing and make it 100K instead of 10K. Yeah? You've seen that, right? How do I know that that's an income document? How do I know your pay slip is real? I mean, we can capture these things, we can get all, excited about it, we can tie into back ends, all those kinds of things. The fraudsters, like we protect, they attack. They're as good at attacking as we are in protecting. So they're going to work out thousands of ways to get around it. So my charge today is keep the people in mind. Fraud and money laundering is done by people to people. These AIs are built by people. They are fallible. They can be attacked. And I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you very much.